Recording in progress.
All right, I'd like to call to order the March 9th, 2026 Mountlake Terrace Planning Commission meeting to order. Would you please take the roll?
Yes. Chair Batista?
Here.
Vice Chair Betcher?
Present.
Commissioner Finch?
Here.
Commissioner Morgan? Clark, Commissioner Morgan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Commissioner Stenson? Expected to be online. Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner Wu?
Here.
That concludes roll call.
Okay, item number 3, approval of the February 9th, 2026 meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to those? Not hearing or seeing anything, we'll go ahead and declare those accepted as presented. Item number 4, general public comment. Let the record show there is no public in attendance tonight. Do we have anybody who has signed up to speak online?
No one signed up to speak online.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 5, city organization update.
Hello, thank you, Chair Batista and members of the Planning Commission. I appreciate you having me here tonight. Jeff Knighton, City Manager for Mountlake Terrace. And just wanted to give you an update on what's happening with community development and kind of the direction that we're moving on or moving to from there. We've gone through, as you know, as you all are aware, Christy has retired, and hopefully she's enjoying herself in a place that's sunnier than we are right now. But when we took a look at the Community and Economic Development Department, we wanted to take this opportunity to focus community development on community building, placemaking, and some of the other topics that you'll hear about with the branding update, along with the regulatory piece that they are responsible for. So with that, we have reorganized a little bit. It's been in progress for quite some time, but I wanted to personally give you an update on what's happening. So the previous name of the department was the Community and Economic Development Department. And we've decided to change that to strictly community development. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, there's kind of a natural tension between the staff that are responsible for bringing new business and new development into the city and the team that is responsible for regulating that, making sure that the city gets the type of development that you all have adopted as part of your vision in the comprehensive plan, and kind of the design guidelines and those types of things. So there's a little bit of tension there. And when those two not unrelated functions are in the same department, one naturally takes a more subservient role, I guess. So what we've decided to do is change that to the department to community development, and then have Ryan with you there this evening as the economic development function that reports directly to the city manager's office, reports to me, and that way we can give the importance to each function that they deserve. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to do that. The other, the economic development function has been a priority for the city council for a long time. But when I first arrived a couple years ago, one of the first things that I noticed was the resources devoted to community development were only 0.45 of an employee. So not even a full FTE was devoted to that function. So that's why we wanted to change that and have Ryan report directly to me. So with that, Sarah will have an update on the Community Development Director search process, which Chair Batista, we appreciate you participating in. We had a very robust process across 4 panels, and Sarah has some statistics and some news to share with you as part of her report later this evening. So with that, happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Does the Planning Commission have any questions for City Manager? Yes, go ahead.
Will we be continuing to hear both from community and from economic development?
You will. So economic development will come to you several times a year with updates on what's happening, the new businesses that we've been able to attract, and those types of things. Yeah, it won't be a complete split. I just wanted you to understand how the organization was being structured at this point, because I believe it'll produce a more robust economic development. More robust economic development activity.
Great. And how does this thing split down in terms of like comprehensive plan updates and writing regulations? Are those all handled by both departments, or is there a clear delineation between the two?
There'll be a clear delineation between the two, but there will be participation by community development in those activities. So the regulation writing will be done by community development, but reach out to Ryan for comment to make sure we're not cutting off our nose to spite our face.
Great. I hope they continue to communicate, because one of the things I often run into is that as part of community development, economic development is oftentimes has complaints about how maybe sometimes they weren't as considered, and then the regulations make things not as possible. So hopefully we're a small city and we, continue to have many lunches together.
One of the reasons Ryan is in my office, or is part of the city manager's office, but still sits down on the first floor, is for that very reason. Sits with the community development folks. It's more about elevating the economic development profile and putting it on a similar level with the community development director, who Sarah will update you about tonight.
Great. And Commissioner Morgan.
Yeah, I guess, so does that mean there's going to be a public input into economic development, like a separate commission that then spin up?
Yeah, no, there won't be a separate commission, and that's why we'll still come and update the Planning Commission on our activities, several times throughout the year.
Okay, anyone else? Not hearing or seeing anyone, so I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you, and have a great rest of your evening.
Great. Thank you.
Congratulations, I think.
All right, item number 6, presentation on branding update.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Planning Commission members. I am Ryan Doss. I'm the Economic Development Manager. My ears were burning on the last item as my name was brought up a few times. But I'll just comment, there's a lot of tension between me and Sarah, but we work really well together. Jeff mentioned I sit on the first floor kind of amongst the community development team. We talk every day, so there's a lot of, opportunity for collaboration. And the item we have before you tonight is a great example of that. And also in light of kind of names changing, things kind of being rebranded, wanted to bring the city's branding project to Planning Commission. This kind of kicked off back in September. We brought on a consultant altogether, who Rachel is joining us virtually tonight, and will give the presentation. But it's been a great process so far. We've talked to a number of stakeholders, community members, and even some planning commissioners as yourselves. But without taking any of the thunder away from Rachel, I'll pass it on to her.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to chat with you all. I'm hoping this is less of a formal presentation and more of a brainstorm. We have some ideas, but really want to get your input, particularly on the neighborhood sub areas, as I know that's something that you all have been thinking and talking a lot about. If you don't mind, because I can't see all of you, can we do some quick introductions? I know I've met some of you, but I don't know that I have met all of you, so I'd love to just know who I'm talking to.
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. Nick Batista, I'm the Chair of the Planning Commission.
I'm Adam Betcher. I'm Vice Chair of the Planning Commission.
Deneen Thompson, member of the Planning Commission.
Chris Finch, I'm also a member.
And we've got 2 online commissioners tonight, if you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
Sure, Cameron Wu. I've been on the commission for about 15 months.
And Clark Morgan, I've been on the commission for almost 4 years.
Lovely, thank you. I appreciate that. I can see, some people's names in the Zoom, but not everyone's placards. So appreciate the quick introductions.
And just to let you know, we do have one that, one commissioner, Commissioner Stenson, she's not present tonight, so there's one more of us.
Okay, appreciate that. I'm going to share my screen, and I've got a quick update on what we've been up to. So yeah, just a little bit of framing of what this project is. I know you all are somewhat familiar and where we are, and then I want to spend most of our time talking about the different sub areas and brainstorming their character with you, and then end with just understanding how we would use these sub area characters. So the goals of this process, of this branding and placemaking strategy, are to discover and celebrate MLT's unique history, engage diverse voices through listening sessions, surveys, and workshops, develop a brand platform, including a story, messaging, and visual identity system, and then create ideas and strategies for wayfinding and placemaking. And finally, to build a marketing strategy with recommendations for business attraction, visitor promotion, and community pride. So we're a little bit more than halfway through, I would say. We're in phase 2 at this brand development stage. We have spent the first phase really understanding your community, reading through your comprehensive plan, your economic development strategy. We did a community survey. We had a lot of stakeholder discussions. So we'll talk about some of the work that we've done to date. And then we were in Mountlake Terrace about a month ago for a resident open house and council presentation. And I know Commissioner Baptiste, I know we met there. And then from here, we're going on to, create the brand, create a wayfinding and placemaking strategy. And then we'll be back probably in April or May for another council presentation, and kind of finish things out with some templates and guidelines and training. So as part of that process, we looked at positioning. Who are your neighbors? What is their unique position in the market? So I'm not going to read through all of these, but in addition to researching these places, we also visited them the last time that we were here. So it was nice to see them in person and put actual visit place, but more than a picture. And then thinking about what Mountlake Terrace's position within that is. And so based on the research that we did about the other communities, we found that Mountlake Terrace position is really a small, diverse community with transit access positioned for thoughtful growth. We also outlined a target audience strategy. So really, as we're thinking about marketing, who we're focusing on and why. Instead of focusing on everyone, we really want to focus on these 3 audiences. Residents who become champions of Mountlake Terrace's evolution. Residents are a really important group also just because as a city, they're, your core user, core stakeholder. It's important that any brand resonate with them so that it feels true to place. But then this is, a economic development tool. And so visitors is really important. We want visitors who discover what a hidden gem MLT is and that it's worth returning for. And finally, growth-oriented businesses and development partners who are ready to invest in the vision that you all have for Mountlake Terrace's future. As part of the last workshop, we shared our first blush at what we think the brand personality of Mountlake Terrace is. So I'll read some of this, but Mountlake Terrace is 4 square miles of everyday people building extraordinary things, a place where you're connected to everywhere, rooted right here. We talked about the character being small but mighty, unpretentious, intimate, neighborly, and authentic, and some key personality traits being a grounded optimist, intentionally paced, and open arms. And so we're in the process of refining the messaging and the storytelling around this brand right now. We also shared some working mood boards that we got public input on. And so we are as part of this process, not redesigning the city logo, but helping create a brand around it. What we heard was there was a logo, but there wasn't a brand. There wasn't a clear way to use things. There wasn't a style guide as it went to typography, color, illustration. And so that's what we are working on, a couple different ways that could play out in collateral design. So, and then there are these neighborhood sub areas, which was part of our scope. And the goal for creating these is to create a distinct economic character for each of MLT's neighborhoods, and then create a visual architecture and messaging to support the future land use and zoning work with a better awareness and buy-in from neighbors and neighborhoods. We heard from our survey, people know what Town Center is, they know what Lake Bollinger is, but they don't totally know the other neighborhoods, Gateway, Cascade View. Those are not places, and I'm sure you all know this, you've had these discussions. Those aren't places that people really connect with. So we are hoping today that you can help us to help, develop these simple brand marks for each of the city's 6 neighborhoods. We've done the research, as I spoke about, the stakeholder conversations, reviewing your planning documents, but we really want to see how you see the character of each place and how you hope that these tools will help accomplish your goals. So with that, I guess before I move on, any questions about what this is, what we're doing, and why before I start kind of picking your brain on each of these neighborhoods?
Not so much a question on that, but when we discuss each of these sub areas, do you want us to let you kind of talk about the slide and then we discuss each one separately, or do you want us to just hold all our comments to the end?
No, I'm going to go through one at a time, and I'm going to pull up a Miro board, so I'm going to be taking notes and putting things on there so it can be collaborative. We'll go one at a time through each of them,
Okay.
But we'll have discussion about each of them.
Great.
Any other questions?
No, I think that answers.
Okay. So Sarah shared this lovely map that we have been referencing to understand the different sub areas. So these 6 different sub areas. I'm going to pull up. So for each of these, I have a board, and I'm going to zoom into them, that has a little bit about what it is today. What we've gathered is your planning vision and some development priorities, and then, some key questions for each. And so I'm going to read through this and I'll zoom in even more so you can read through it. But I want to make sure that this is correct, that the information that we've gathered feels true to your vision, and then have you add to it. So we'll start with Town Center, but I would like to spend the least amount of time on this because I think that this is probably where there is the most of a defined vision. So what this is today. This is a 82-acre mixed-use zone anchored by the light rail station, the civic campus, and Veterans Memorial Park. I wanted to question this number with you, Ryan. Would you say it is 40% redeveloped? How redeveloped is Town Center?
That is a great question, Rachel. I'm not sure I want to put a number to that because I think that can mean kind of different things. As redevelopment of Town Center has been kind of a 20-year process. So, yeah, that.
I won't make you put a number, but we'll say
thank you.
significant projects have moved forward, but there is still a lot to go. Is that fair?
I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay. We've got key corridors, 56th Ave, 236th Street is the connection to transit, and then you get the future main street of 57. And then established businesses. So you have your kind of evolving mix of established local businesses and service retail. A lot other than there's commercial in each area, but this is really what a lot of people I think of as the heart of your business district, and that is the planning vision as well, for it to be a vibrant, walkable, transit-oriented downtown with 4 to 12-story buildings, taller near the station and then stepping down. That there is this vision for a future Main Street with ground floor retail, restaurants, destination shops, that arts and culture is really integrated throughout it. and that there, will be some structured parking, active ground floors, a more compact block pattern than is there today. You already have some kind of priority development focus areas that once there is a critical mass, you'll explore a business improvement district. And there is this pedestrian connection from the station through Veterans Park to Town Center is nearing completion. What did I miss anything, or did I misstate anything?
I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, obviously the big thing is that most of our future growth is probably going to be spurred on by us having the light rail station now.
Yeah.
So.
I have a general comment. It's not really more of a question. I guess it actually is a question. Where are these neighborhoods? I think one of the things that, like, just walking around the town, right? Like, do these lines actually make sense?
We were going to get into that later because of previous planning commission discussion. So, I mean, we could probably say that just to give you a heads up that the planning commission has had previous conversations about these sub-area boundaries and the amount of sub-areas that there are. And there was consensus that we would probably be creating smaller sub-areas and possibly moving some of these lines to be less administrative and more natural in terms of where neighborhoods actually lie. But we don't have an exact date when we're going to do that yet.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So
you have
just
something
kind of to say my future comments will probably wind up shifting some of these lines a little bit in my head, but we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, if y'all don't mind, I kind of jump in for a second here, and Sarah, please correct me on this, but no, my understanding is Planning Commission has a desire to do future sub-area planning work. How we kind of view the vision of doing this kind of neighborhood identity, different, branding for these sub-areas is kind of creating a framework for that. And then, ideally, as you're going through the sub-area planning for a specific one, having it remain flexible for that if we're breaking it up into smaller neighborhoods, if, the branding needs to feel more unique to these kind of specific areas. I want to ensure that we have the flexibility for that, but we're also creating the framework that we kind of have this brand system where it's umbrella kind of all underneath the city's overall brands, but then it all kind of builds in together. And so.
Yeah, so I guess then my question is Gateway, is Terrace Station actually a part of Town Center or Gateway? And should does the branding also spread between these two neighborhoods as well?
So currently
Between Gateway and Town Center?
Yeah.
Currently, Terrace Station is within Gateway, but so the question would be if
it's also way down the hill from the rest of Gateway, which sort of naturally also flows into Town Center, and then is different from the far east side of town. So
I definitely see. I mean, you all. I know that the boundaries. You all are the expert there. From a vibe perspective, I do think that there is I don't know. I could go both ways on Terrace Station is, the start of your retail district and probably will feel once, the rest of the town center development comes forward, will probably feel more connected to it than the rest of this whole Gateway area. So I see value in that, of the town center being more focused on your higher density, new mixed use development. However, I also could see the question of well, but if the future heart is the future Main Street, then do we want to differentiate those areas?
yeah, and the area down the hill also almost feels a little bit different. It's almost more like a hybrid between a town and a freeway. It's got elements of both, which is a bit different than if you go over to 56, which feels pretty similar north and south of Town Center. Of 236 between Town Center and Gateway.
Well, like Ryan said, I think that the specific boundaries I think is, probably an exercise for a later date. I do think that I want to talk about the names once we get into each one. So that I think is something we should discuss. But it seems like town center is pretty. We're not changing the name of that. That's been in the works for a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know that the vision is for this to be like the heart of your community, of your, retail commercial district. Is there anything else that you would want a, sub area brand for this district to capture?
Not hearing or seeing anybody wanting to volunteer, so I think for now, we're good. Obviously,
Like I said, this is the one where we have the most context, so I'm happy to not spend too much time on it.
obviously, we reserve the right to come up with something at a later date.
Okay, so the next one is Melody Hill. So again, for just context of where we're talking about, this is the current boundaries of Melody Hill. So west of the highway, north of Lake Ballinger. Is it Ballinger or Bollinger?
Ballinger.
Ballinger. Okay, thank you. So today it has light industrial office park zoning in the northwest quadrant. It's home to Primera, which is the largest employer in MLT at the moment. It's pretty auto-oriented, low-density industrial and office buildings. There is the potential of a future light rail station at 220th, and that corridor is named as a major commercial center. The planning vision is for it to maintain an employment focus, not really a residential conversion area, and to attract more regional growth industries like clean technology, life sciences, business services. Wanting to see some adaptive reuse of older warehouses and see some maker spaces. There's the potential for office to life sciences conversion and maybe some, modern industrial, and that any future light rail station would, significantly amplify development pressure. So some development priorities that you all had listed was, inventorying vacant and underutilized properties for redevelopment targeting, city tours with regional site selectors and brokers, and really supporting Primera's long-term health as an anchor employer. So anything that I have misstated or missed?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think there's another up the hill, down the hill dynamic here where it's quite different down the hill. Like Primera and the sort of industrial areas kind of down the hill are of a different character than up the hill, where we also have homes and businesses. Like if you've been in that little plaza on the south side, there's a bunch of cool businesses opening up there. So I think there is a neighborhood focus that is like, a neighborhood that is maybe a little bit more, you mentioned auto-scaled. I'd prefer not to say that. I think it'd be better to like focus more on like the, it's kind of larger in a way, but it's also, a place where you can live and a place where you can work. And then down the hill in the industrial area, we've also got like the hockey rink and the archery place and some other things that are kind of unique to the region, I think. So like that dichotomy between the sort of up the hill and down the hill areas, like, I think is interesting. I wouldn't necessarily paint the whole thing with business area.
Stupid asking, but I'm like, where is the hill? We're talking north, south, east, west, which?
It's like as you're heading down 220th, if you zoom into are you able to zoom into the map very far at all?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be blurry, but.
Yeah, so the big green line right there is the hill. So you can kind of see there's like the big buildings, and then on the south side of 220th, that's kind of the valley there. And then you've got, it kind of continues along and of course sort of turns to the east a little bit. And then you can kind of see those apartment buildings that are right next to the freeway exit. Like those are on top of the hill, and then just the other side of that is a ridge where there's more industrial stuff is down the hill.
Okay.
I would maybe, update instead of calling it a hockey rink, it's an ice rink, but it's not open to the public. So one of the reasons why a lot of people don't know it's there is because the majority of people can't use it. So it'd be nice if it was open to the public, but it's not. So it's private rentals and teams only. At one point, the UW's hockey team practiced there. I don't know if they still do or not. Another note I would probably add, just because it is a large draw to the city, even though it's not something people usually brag about, is there's a regional transfer station in this neighborhood. So that actually contributes probably a lot to the industrial traffic that happens.
Like bus transfer?
Waste transfer. So
Waste transfer.
garbage trucks.
Got it. Like stormwater and like sewage waste?
No,
like
garbage.
garbage waste?
Garbage.
Okay.
It's the dump.
Regional transfer station is a very official way to say the dump.
Yes, we like to sound fancy. And then their recycling center is just down the block from there too. So, so that's a big industrial draw
I also
for the city.
Yeah, I also have a couple of other interesting businesses to add that I think are cool. One is that you mentioned like high-tech manufacturing and something. We actually have a couple of those down there. One, we've got a manufacturer of digital signal processing equipment that's like on the north side of 220th, kind of down in the valley. And then on the south side, I was actually looking for like a Type 1 sound level meter that I could plug into my iPhone, and the manufacturer of that is actually down in that area as well. So there's some like...
Wait, what? Say it again. What is it?
What did you say?
a manufacturer of a Type 1 sound level meter. It's a thing I use for acoustic measurements, like that plugs into your iPhone.
Okay.
Like the manufacturer of the microphone apparently is down in that valley. So we do have some like high-tech manufacturing down there. It's like, there are a lot of interesting little businesses down there.
It's on 66?
70, it's like 70th, I think.
Yeah, it's really easy to overlook our light industrial office park area. It's not necessarily right on the main drags. A lot of people don't know they're there. A lot of people don't know what businesses are there. So we've always been intentional on trying to preserve the zoning for that area. It's kind of this give and take, because it'd be nice if we had more, but at the same time, we also want more of what's right next to it. So it's... There's always a little bit tension there. A good example is the larger apartment complexes that are closer to the freeway. Those are getting up there in age, and it'd be nice if there'd be some sort of redevelopment, not only for increase the population base, but also add more possible businesses, maybe some office buildings there as well. We have one office building right at the corner, and for years the U.S. Forest Service had their regional office there, and so that was kind of nice. They even had their logo on the building, but they've been out for quite a while, so it'd be nice to get some bigger businesses back in there, help, not only increase our tax base, but, increase the draw and strengthen that argument for that light rail station that is more and more looking like it's not going to happen anytime in the near future due to economic conditions.
Yeah, I know. Ryan said it would be mainly like once the Everest station is built, or that would be when that would come into play.
Yeah.
Is that where we have one of those private schools too, or is that not Mountlake Terrace? There's a small school right by the car wash. Is that car wash Mountlake Terrace?
No, the car wash is, at that point, that car wash is in Linwood.
Linwood, okay, so that's where it probably is too. It's on the same side of the road.
Yeah, the interurban trail is the incorporation boundary for Terrace. So anything that's either north or west of that trail, for the most part, is a different city. So.
Okay.
What other types of, businesses or employers would you really hope to attract?
For light industrial, I think it would be nice if we could learn more about the businesses down there and see if there's any either support we can provide or connections we can make. Like the fact that, the microphone manufacturer, they're different businesses, but I don't know if they've ever talked to each other, the microphone manufacturer and the digital signal processor. And then, I know there's some construction companies down there and things like that. And you mentioned business incubation, which I'm a big fan of. I think this would be sort of a natural and logical place to kind of direct some of those efforts up the hill. That area is actually pretty interesting from more of a service business standpoint as well. The little plaza south of 220th recently had a really good cafe open. There's also a Korean fried chicken place that's currently under permit, and a collectible card game. You could spend a solid evening there. We also have our 2 cannabis shops there, and some of them are a little quirky. Like in one of them, there's a head shop next door where you can walk in and ask the proprietor to open the fruited beer specialty shop that he also runs.
Oh, yes, the craft stores, I know.
Yeah.
I was telling you about that.
Yeah, so
What was the other one you said? They're new to business before Korean fried chicken. There was another one you mentioned.
Oh, the really good cafe? It's next to
Yes.
Porta Subs. It's a Cafe Lilia. Yeah.
Okay. And then there was a card shop too?
Yeah, next to 220th Street Bingo, which is also, it's an interesting collection of service businesses there as well.
Okay, cool.
Aerospace paint shop down there. Color Tech.
And we can,
What is
of course.
Can you guys speak into your
There's
microphones,
There's
please?
an aerospace paint shop that's down there. It's called Color Tech.
Aerospace paint shop. I don't even know what that means.
They specialize in powder coating and paints for the aerospace industry.
Huh. Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. There's also, classic businesses there. I think the donut shop is an institution.
What did you say was an institution?
The donut shop.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering if the donut shop was ours.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if this is, we're just kind of listing businesses, and I feel like this is,
I don't know, is this helpful?
I mean, it's not a big area.
It's helpful to know what's there now that,
Yeah.
is good and that you're excited about and defines the character. And then it sounds like, the planning vision for who we want to attract is maybe what I've already gone through. So it is helpful.
I think the key here is that a lot of the rattling off of the businesses, these are businesses kind of in strip mall developments. So a lot of them are there, are able to capture the business from the residential neighborhood and some of that throughput from the traffic, probably people coming to and from Primera or their other jobs. So, I think the idea is that what can we do to kind of exploit that customer base and expand the opportunities for increasing all the types of businesses there, not only the industrial, the office park industrial businesses, but also the service industry sector businesses there. So there's always, the goal there is, more growth, so.
Okay. I'm going to move on to Lake Bollinger. So here are the current boundaries of Lake Bollinger. I'm going to just say it both ways because I'm still in my head. I question it every time.
And just to let you know, I do have a correction on this slide for you as well, so.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you want me to tell me now or do you want me to read through it?
So your first line, the lake, we only actually share the boundary of the lake with Edmonds.
Oh, okay. That is just incorrect. Thank you. Okay, so what it is today, primarily residential neighborhoods surrounding the lake, that this lake was named as like a representative place of Mountlake Terrace by 60% of survey respondents, second only to Double D Meats. There is the park, which has been ongoing transformation and investment, the Mickey Corso Senior Center and Clubhouse, the Interurban Trail, and the Lake Trail Loop. I didn't know this, that it was formerly one of the most polluted lakes in Western Washington, and now it's safe to fish and swim in. So that restoration story, I think, is pretty interesting. And the indigenous history there, that the Lushootseed name was Saukus, meaning face. And that there is a connection to the light rail station, but it's not very obvious or well marked. So the planning vision is, nature, recreation, and residential character. This isn't really a place of significant commercial development, increased non-motorized connections to town center, and the light rail with connections to the interurban trail and Ballinger Park. And then wayfinding from the station to the lake is a gap. So continued investment in the park and, potential for neighborhood events and recreational programming are some of the priorities. What have I missed or misstated or other things that I should know?
I think it's a bit of a quirk of the map, but this is actually very close to the Edmonds International District, they call it. So, like, if you head up the bike trail just past the line right there, you've got like 99 Ranch and a lot of different kind of restaurants, and they're all sort of very close to this. This is a natural like I will go there on a bicycle to pick up a picnic and come down to Lake Ballinger. And so it's actually like kind of, a bit more residential or park-like, but it's actually very close to a lot of these other very active sort of things. And then, of course, town center up the hill. I know there's sort of maybe a demand for like a Green Lake of the North or something, but I think Lake Ballinger is actually like its own unique character and a little bit more different. It's a little less developed. It's, got more natural areas in addition to more developed areas within the park. But it's also very convenient to a lot of these more active things. So I think it's got its own unique character that would be interesting to explore. There's also a bit of an up the hill, down the hill dynamic here, where once you get sort of up further above Lake Ballinger, there's sort of those single family neighborhoods that probably could also maybe, I know the interstate's kind of a barrier, but they might sort a little bit into town center or Melody Hill a little bit more cleanly. Mm-hmm. So there's also a bit of that.
Topography is a recurring theme with how our neighborhoods kind of get split up and are separated from each other. A lot of steep slopes in that area. There isn't a lot of connectivity. By the lake itself, it's primarily, it's not single family. It's all going to be, at least on the east side of the lake. It's all condo, multifamily housing type developments. It's a mix of condos and apartments. No single family housing. There's only 3 lots of single-family housing in Mountlake Terrace that border the lake. On the west side, the rest of the west side and the south side of the lake, that's all Edmonds, and it's all single-family housing. But because of the lake, there's really no.
These are the little 3 right here.
Yep. Yeah. There isn't easy connection to that. It's almost like it's like an afterthought, that side of the lake.
Yeah. Then there's that little wedge neighborhood that's on the northwest side of the park as well. That is also single-family housing.
Yeah.
Up here.
Yeah, far north, beyond the play fields.
Oh, okay, further up here.
Yeah.
Anything else about, like, I think you were, Adam, you were saying that it's, different from other lakes because it is a little bit quieter and more natural versus more like active. Is that what you think of the, character of this area? A little bit more.
Yeah,
I mean, there's active recreation, but it is also more passive recreation, like in that I know there are events here, but like, do you understand the balance I'm trying to get
Yeah,
at?
I
Is
think
like, is
so.
this a
So
really
like,
active space or is this a more like natural space?
so you've got both. Like if you go over to the area that's currently under restoration, sort of on the west side of the park, is a little bit more natural. It's more of like a passive recreation. And then east of the clubhouse and kind of in the clubhouse area, and then in the segment going up along 228th and Lakeview Drive, it's also very active, like more of an active, like park-like place. It's not a full-on urban park, I would say, like Ballinger, or sorry, Green Lake is. But it's still actually very like convenient to a lot of services that might complement the park, like the Edmonds International District, for example, or stuff along Highway 99, or even stuff in town center.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a nice balance.
Yeah, this neighborhood is kind of in transition. It used to be 2 golf courses that bordered this lake with a small city park with a dock and a boat launch. The city, the golf course was city-owned and privately managed, and golfing kind of has decreased in popularity over the decades, and so the city decided to convert their golf course to more of a naturescape park. The Nile still has their golf course, on the south portion, southeast portion of the lake. So up until time's relative for me. I've been around for so long. So up until recently, it was just golf courses, and so now it being a large kind of more naturalized park, the use has changed, but it's a popular draw.
And it might be worth mentioning, the Nile is also historic. I think they were built back in, I want to say their lodge maybe was built in the 20s, back when Nick started on the Planning Commission. And just on the other side of the lake, a little bit outside of Mountlake Terrace, is the original the Lake Ballinger station, where a lot of the development in the area kind of started. So it doesn't look it, but it's actually sneakily like a historically important neighborhood as well in many ways.
Mm. Anything else that we should know about Lake Ballinger before we move on? I feel like the next 3 are like the trickier ones. Okay, hearing none. Gateway. So we have, Southern Commercial Anchor, ongoing redevelopment potential. Appreciate the conversation that Terrace Station, feels pretty different from the rest of this area. So we can maybe differentiate that as we're talking. So what it is today, south of Town Center, it's, adjacent to I-5, just south of the light rail station, one of the city's 3 major commercial centers, alongside Town Center and, 220th Melody Hill. It's currently a blend of the mixed-use development at Terrace Station and some auto-oriented commercial, plus, the residential areas. There are several pending and redevelopable areas in play. It's positioned as the southern gateway into Mountlake Terrace. There is, significant density and mixed-use potential given the proximity to light rail. The current character is defined by Terrace Station, Grocery Outlet, and Forest Crest Athletic Club. That higher intensity development is appropriate given, the proximity to the freeway and transit, and that we need better light rail or better wayfinding from the light rail station, particularly for Terrace Station. And looking at more large format residential over, more retail or hotel. Does that feel right? Do we want to further differentiate what the rest of Gateway outside of Terrace Station feels like?
Yeah, I think it would be important. Forest Crest Athletic Club is definitely in a completely different part of that sub area than Terrace Station or even 244th and 56, where we're going to be focusing our efforts, kind of for upzoning and redevelopment. And Forest Crest being a private club, I don't know how much of that has a neighborhood identity to it. There, I mean, if you're a club member, then maybe, but it's, for the neighborhood itself, it's just, it's not on a main drag. You're not going to even know what it is. Most people probably drive right by it and not know it's there. And there's been tension in the past between the club and the surrounding neighbors. So I'm not sure how much of a neighborhood, defining neighborhood characteristic the club is. At least with Gateway as a whole, and that, directly adjacent to the club, maybe.
And so how would...
I think I would step in and say that it attracts people from all over the region and brings in members to a private club. So I would prefer to say like that is, a great recreation. It's very similar to the gymnastics facility down the street.
Yeah,
I think calling all of those private clubs out, whether they are well known or not, is actually important, especially as our own recreational facility is aging to the point that it may, we don't know how much longer that will be available to us.
Yeah, I would say with the club there, it is directly adjacent to one of the city's main parks and play fields. So, if you wanted to identify that area as a whole as a recreation destination between the public facilities and a private facility.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, and I think there's a critical difference. Like, this is one of those neighborhoods, it's actually like two neighborhoods, and on the west side, it's way easier because you've got like a main street, and then once you cross about, 52nd or 53rd or something, there's just really not that much there. But I think I would default to the parks, because you got Terrace Ridge and you've got Forest Crest, and those are sort of the natural, maybe because they're the only current community facilities that really exist. And then of course you've got sort of Forest Crest Park adjacent, you got the tennis club, and you've got like the church over there that was formerly an elementary school. So I think this is one of those ones where there's it's two raccoons in the same trench coat, but one of them wants to break free. So I don't know how you make that an identity.
If we were to say, for instance, that Terrace Station and kind of the further west area, close to I-5, was part of town center, would the name Gateway still apply here, or would you call it, I know that a lot of people use the park names to refer to places. Does Forest Crest make more sense, or Terrace Ridge?
Not necessarily. I will say that there are those in the city that like the Gateway name. I personally don't like neighborhoods or sub-area names that are also duplicated in other parts of the region. Gateway is one of those. But it's not only, the gateway to Terrace, it's also, people viewed it as part of this, why they wanted this name at the time, is that it's also the gateway to Snohomish County, at least if you're on I-5. So I think you, there may be some desire to maybe keep that name, but I know as a planning commission, we definitely want to see that sub-area split up.
Okay. Is there anything else that we should know about more of the, the residential areas? If we're comparing, the residential areas in Gateway compared to Cedar Terrace, is there a distinct character here?
Not really. It's primarily single-family housing.
Well, you've also got those apartments kind of down in the canyon of 44th / Cedar Way, which I think is also an underappreciated part of the edge of the city. But that sort of transition there is also kind of distinctive there.
Where is that again, you're saying?
So it's actually just to the right of Gateway. There's a little kind of corner there that's not in anyone. Yeah, so those are apartments, and they're kind of in this like Terrace Creek Park, which is actually a big connector across the entire city. I think that like spreads it, like, that's just my own opinion, but the like the extreme from there continues kind of down at the border between Gateway and Cedar, whatever we were calling that other neighborhood on the QFC. And like there's like a cluster of like apartments there, and then it transitions over into Briar, which we don't talk about, but and then Abbey View Cemetery up the hill.
It's in Briar, we don't talk about it.
Right, but it's also like, you know, the world just kind of stops there, right? Like you've got these apartments, and then it's like the great unknown. I've heard of it referred to as the Briar Triangle, sort of like the Bermuda Triangle.
That's this unincorporated area?
Oh, and then the town to the east of us, which is also up the hill. So there's another up the hill, down the hill kind of dynamic there. But yeah, so that's actually like a big point of transition there.
Should we, anything else about the Gateway area before we move to Cedar Terrace?
No, I think we're good with Gateway because this is definitely going to be one of those ones that we're going to be tackling. So it's all going to get scrambled.
So Cedar Terrace for visual map of where we're talking about. On the eastern border of the city, kind of separated by Terrace Creek Park or Terrace Creek. So established residential with some neighborhood serving commercial, primarily single family, east of town center. The commercial anchor is Cedar Plaza, which is designated as a secondary commercial node. There are some neighborhood nodes on the east side in this area. It's pretty stable, tree-lined, post-war residential. The survey respondents talked about MLT being like walkable neighborhood feel, and I think that feels true here. The planning vision is to maintain and gently strengthen neighborhood serving commercial, so not expecting like major transformation in this area. Encourage commercial expansion through compatible adaptive reuse and infill, that higher density housing is appropriate near the commercial nodes to increase that customer base. Focus on access and equity to make sure people have goods and services nearby them. Again, Cedar Plaza being the primary commercial node and missing middle housing kind of near those. What have I missed? And anything about this name or this area that we should talk about?
I know we kind of focus on the commercial nodes here, but I think there's also some interest in the parks and other community facilities we have there. Like the high school is there.
Not in Cedar Terrace.
Oh, yeah, it is. No.
No, I think the high school is this high school up here?
Okay, yeah. So never mind. That's a different.
But isn't there a park in that area?
Yeah, that's actually a big. It was kind of a big neighborhood thing as well.
There is a park and an elementary school in this neighborhood.
Yeah, Bicentennial seems to be a major focus of at least the northeast part of that community.
Yeah, there has been an effort over the last decade or so to increase the sidewalks in that area, partially through safe route to school grants, since the elementary school is there. So it's becoming safer to walk to Bicentennial Park than it maybe had been in previous decades.
Yeah, and there's also Firefighters Park there, which is on the border of the town. And I know that we've got like a pretty sharp transition between the apartments and Briar down on the south end of town. But at the north end of town, like it's a little bit harder to kind of differentiate between the neighborhoods, I would think. They just sort of blend into each other a little bit more. There's not as much of like a vertical transition.
What about this name, Cedar Terrace? Like, I know people know Cedar Plaza. Would anyone say, oh, I live in the Cedar Terrace neighborhood?
So Cedar Way is, 44th becomes Cedar Way, so that's where the naming comes from, is the road, but Cedar Terrace is the elementary school. So just like Melody Hill was the actual elementary school that used to be there, Melody Hill Elementary, Cedar Terrace gets its name from the elementary school. So there's sort of a historic precedent for that specific neighborhood name. It used to be, most of our sub-areas had Terrace in the name, except for Melody Hill. And I know at the time, one of the city council members didn't like that. But honestly, I think that that's a sort of a unifying feature. You know, if your neighborhood kind of has Terrace in the name, it's kind of makes for some of the neighborhoods to be sort of long-winded in terms of a name. But yeah, that actually has historic precedence for that neighborhood name.
Okay, that's
So
really
we like
helpful.
the Ramones, where everyone just takes the last name
Yeah.
Ramone. Or a collection of
Like
terraces
what?
here. There's a band called the Ramones.
The Ramones.
And yeah, they all just took the last name Ramone. So it was like Jolene
Okay.
Ramone, Tony Ramone, like, they just,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the Ramones, I just didn't hear you.
Are there
an
any
old
other,
reference.
I know we talked about some of the parks. Are there any other like specific businesses or specific institutions there that people really resonate with or that, people want to see there?
Unfortunately, we lost a main historical business that had been there for over 40 years. Bartell Drugs is a regional drugstore that sadly kind of got bought out by Rite Aid, then Rite Aid kind of went under too, so the name's gone. But that was a big identifying thing. The grocery store, it's been a QFC for a long time, but before that it was Olson's. I know a lot of people who still call it Olson's. But, it's a large strip mall there. So there's, the average turnover that you have at strip malls, businesses 5 to 10 years, and then, they get replaced. We lost our hardware store, which has kind of changed names over the years, but there's always been a hardware store there. Now there is none. I don't know, maybe have heard if anything's coming in or whatnot, but it's the property management situation there was kind of in flux for a bit. So who knows what's going to happen in the future. We have zoned it to allow it to be redeveloped as mixed use, because we still want the commercial there, but, we've identified it as a place that we could also put more residential. But, yeah, go ahead.
I would say it's the most identifiably suburban neighborhood, probably, that actually has something to go to it. It's, anchored by a strip mall, or a couple of strip malls. And is Sorelli's up here, or is it further up 44th?
It's same neighborhood, but it's a little bit further up 44th.
Yes, there's also another little node. There's some, businesses that people readily identify. I think the, pizza place, the Mexican restaurant, I actually like Pet
Ringers.
Adventure. Yep, Ringers, people know Ringers. So, I think there's some good, it's not quite as many as some of the other neighborhoods, but there are some sort of anchoring businesses in those plazas as well. And then a couple of, it's, there's a few areas of apartments, but largely it's also kind of single-family homes.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see the actual tax revenue numbers. Would not surprise me if Cedar Plaza generates more tax revenue than our town center does right now.
Yeah.
It's essentially a downtown for this part of the city, and as well as for the city to the east of us, because they have no commercial at all. So.
Yeah, I would say it was the minimum viable product for a functional downtown in a suburb until the hardware store closed. But I do think that sort of the hope is that we can re-envision it to not just be a strip mall where the cars are going, but maybe it's more of a place of neighborhood centering. As a 12-year-old, could you then come from school to go hang out or meet up with somebody in the strip mall from the neighborhood? Is that something we can grow? I don't know, maybe that's my own thing. I don't know if that's shown up in any other public comment, but That's sort of what I think
I
of
like
when I
that
think
idea.
of, and it's kind of the case with all these neighborhoods, right? Like, can a middle schooler have some degree of autonomy between all these places?
Mm-hmm. I want to move on to the last one because I know I have taken up lots of time and have just a little bit of closing as well. So the last one is Cascade View. I think from kind of the survey when we asked people about the different neighborhoods, this one was probably like the least identifiable. So this is kind of the northeasternmost area. It has the high school up here. This is the rec center, right? This is technically in Cascade View.
Yeah, Cascade View is one of those other sub-areas where we've had previous discussions about wanting to sort of split this up because there's definitely at least two distinct and separate sections to this. It's also, this neighborhood name is fairly new and it repeats in the region. It's one that the goal is to, at least it's my goal, to have this changed. It's not, historically, this, as for administrative purposes, this sub-area used to just be called East Terrace. So the change is not that old. There's no historical attachment to this name. Doesn't really identify anything that's in this district or that is, any kind of historical connotation. So when we're going to tackle this, that was one of the things that we were going to address, not only the boundaries and splitting it up, but also the neighborhood name. And as you can see, the boundaries are, they're a little bit wonky too.
Yeah.
That's
And
partly
so,
because
like,
of the incorporation boundaries.
And the differentiator, like, what differentiates Cascade View or, East Terrace, whatever we might call it, from Cedar Terrace? Or is there?
It depends on where you want to draw the line. Cascade View in the northeastern portion of this sub-area is primarily apartments. Whereas Cedar Terrace, that part of the northern part of Cedar Terrace is all single-family residential, as well as the western half of Cascade View, that's getting more into, it becomes sort of a transition. It's a mix of apartments and then becomes single-family homes as you get closer to the freeway, except for right at 220th and the freeway, there's not sure if it's apartments or condos. I think it might be a condo complex, but anyway, multifamily housing.
Yeah.
So there isn't a lot of, as you probably have seen in Terrace, there isn't a lot of interconnectivity between the sub areas, and so they really are separate, short of maybe one or two direct roads that you can go through, unless you want to kind of wind your way through small residential roads that will get you twisted and turned, and it's not the easiest to go east to west in this city.
So I think this is one of those sub-areas where the correct number of sub-areas for it is not one. As you said, in my mind, this is actually maybe closer to 3 separate sub-areas. So on the west, you've actually got 220th, and I know we've got it as a divider here, but I think that might actually be potentially more of a natural connector. This is sort of an extension historically and also kind of physically of the town center neighborhood, but it's far enough away where I think it could be a differentiated neighborhood. And I think of this as like Sports Terrace. We've got the evergreen playfields there. We've got the Catholic Church. There's some businesses that are kind of emerging on 220th. We've got the elementary school there. In my mind, it's kind of a natural spine sort of for the southern and northern sides of that neighborhood. And then there's, as you get to the northern side of that neighborhood, you've also got a big terrain thing where you've got a big cliff And then sort of at the bottom, you've got 212th, which is the northern boundary of the city. And that's where you're talking about some of the apartments. And we've got some little nodes of businesses that are scattered in there on 212th. And so maybe that to me, just kind of walking around as you're going up the hill on 220th feels like Cascade View Terrace. Like that probably needs some work into like differentiating it as a place in my mind, just kind of walking around. Like it's a neighborhood with its own character, but then further east, you've got the high school and the plaza up at the northern end of town, which actually is closest to the Linwood Transit Center. Like if you cross the interstate, you can walk up the hill, and it sort of bleeds into Linwood there, and so that's kind of like Linwood Terrace.
Mm-hmm.
And then 44th isn't, like you've got 212th Terrace, you've got 44th Terrace, and then you've got 220th Terrace, and these are kind of like, in my mind, three sort of separate neighborhoods. And they're all connected by Terrace Creek Park that sort of winds through all the neighborhoods, which I think is also kind of an interesting differentiator for this end of town. Like the neighborhoods are all separate, but they're all still connected by this sort of big green wilderness area, which is a barrier, but it's also not a barrier.
Yeah, I think it sounds like there's definitely a lot of different character areas within here. I think as you further investigate the sub areas, I would caution against creating too many, because I think there's already you're not a huge community, and I think that the more names and areas you give places, the harder it is for people to all see it as part of a whole. And so I think that it's okay for two areas to have very different characters, but still be part of the same neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And as long as you have a vision for what makes them different, and maybe there's different, zoning or planning visions for those areas. But I think the more granular you get in terms of different districts, there's, I would focus on where you have really strong character, and maybe those are your key corridors and districts. Mm-hmm. But I think it sort of transitions into how do you plan to use this? What is your goal for having these areas and having this character? So we can, I want to see if anyone else has thoughts on this Cascade View, or we can talk about, what is the goal and how do you hope to use these?
Anyone else have any questions, comments? All right.
Okay. Well, appreciate you all taking the time. I'm excited to have some more notes and thoughts on each of these. So this is kind of what we had come up with based on our conversations with Ryan and Sienna in terms of what we are delivering as part of our scope as this framework and starting point, and then some use cases. And so our deliverables are a system of simple brand marks for each of these 6 sub areas that live within the city brand. And if the boundaries change, if the names change, we can think about how that, would update here. But a simple kind of framework of the city as the umbrella, and then within them you have these 6 different sub areas, and those each have a unique mark or maybe a unique color. And then key messaging about the personality of each district to start to guide future development and recruitment. And I think this is probably, more of a tool in areas like Melody Hill, where it's, more of a cohesive narrative. In terms of use cases, I think there's light pole banners are, a great way to identify different neighborhoods and build awareness. I think acknowledging budget constraints and, where these make the most sense, they would be implemented slowly over time. That these could be used for development, recruitment, marketing support, particularly for those smaller commercial nodes. So in places like Cedar Plaza, where you're really trying to convince a business that this is the right area for them, being able to speak to what makes this area different than other places in Mountlake Terrace, and then potentially illustrated city map to really showcase what the different areas are. Anything else? How have you imagined these neighborhood identities being used, or what would be most helpful for you?
If you can make us like Oak Park, that'd be great. I wouldn't mind an L line and a couple of Frank Lloyd Wright houses. That'd be perfect.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Will be better. Our houses won't leak so much.
Yeah.
Anything else that, what are, as you all are thinking about developing sub-area plans, what would be most helpful for you?
Well, I think actually Commissioner Boettcher, I mean, when he was kind of listing off his, sort of 44th node, 212th node, 220th node, is actually highlighting really what unfortunately defines Mountlake Terrace and how auto-oriented we are. And as part of the growth we want to see, we want to encourage outside traffic to come in and frequent our businesses, but we also want to make our neighborhoods more pedestrian friendly. Not so you don't have to get into your car to do anything. I mean, I always say it kills me when I have to leave the city to do anything. It also kills me having to get into the car to do anything. And it'd be nice if our thoroughfares were more inviting for pedestrian travel or people on bikes. They always say now, walking, biking, and rolling. Rolling kind of covers a lot of things these days. It's not the most inviting environment on our main roads because they were designed for the automobile first. And so while you will see people walk on them, they're usually only walking on them because they don't have any other option. If people have the option, they're driving. They're not the best environments to walk. So the goal is, part of this is not only increase, our commercial businesses, but also increase and improve the ways people can access these commercial nodes.
I love that idea that, there are residential neighborhoods all over your city with these smaller commercial nodes, and having them be more inviting, more accessible, so that you have a place that you can walk to grab eggs, and it feels like that's your safe little neighborhood zone. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I walk on the roads, just different roads than the ones you listed. I guess it's a question for city, what are we doing with this? We're going through a branding exercise, and then the branding for the sub areas. I'm curious, what are you thinking we'd wind up doing with this? I know there's probably a good idea to highlight all the individual interesting businesses and places in Terrace.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question, and I'll kind of point to Rachel's use cases up there of how you'll see this in the physical space. Kind of high level, what we're doing with this project, it's twofold. So myself, and then also our communications and community engagement manager, Sienna, we are kind of co-leading this project together of, for my side of the house with economic development, I want to use it to market the city, to bring in businesses, market to the region. But then for kind of Sienna's side, and, there's a lot of overlap, but we want this to feel authentic to our residents and feel like Mountlake Terrace. And that's one of the reasons why we went with All Together, of their community engagement aspect of it. So you'll kind of see this branding come through in city communications, flyers, website. I'll use it for marketing, but it's kind of trying to refresh and improve the perception of the city as kind of we're in this period of transition. So it's kind of wide net that we're going for.
I think, so after talking through this, I think there's a few neighborhoods that have really clearly defined identities. Melody Hill actually has more of an identity than I would have expected, just kind of going through the discussion of how many unique businesses there are, and how it's not just businesses, but also this other kind of, service and housing place at the top of the hill. Town Center obviously has a lot of differentiated things, and Cedar Terrace, I guess, kind of has an identity of being a suburban place. And there's some of these other neighborhoods where maybe it's a little bit more questionable. that we probably need to do some more work on. But going through this exercise for the more defined neighborhoods, I could see being pretty valuable. There are a couple of things that I think that looking at things by sub-area might be missing a bit. One is sort of the overall, I would say almost interconnected nature of our park system. Like, Terrace Creek Park is sort of almost a crown jewel of our park system, but it's split up between a bunch of neighborhoods, but that's because it's like dividing the neighborhoods, but it's also connecting with the park, which I think is like, I don't know, as somebody who walks around the town, I think that's really cool. I can like traverse the entire town almost just going through parks. Like that's something you can't do in a lot of places. And then kind of an extension of that, I think I mentioned the neighborhood of Sports Terrace, sort of around 220th, like in the pool and stuff like that. Like that sort of gets subsumed, I think, into the larger town center neighborhood because the boundaries are drawn that way. That's sort of the fault of like putting too many cool things in one neighborhood and then the other neighborhoods just sort of cut it out a little bit almost. So I think we've got, things to build on like that are low-hanging fruit. I think that would be a really good point of this exercise, and then also see how that kind of folds into the sort of overall view of the city. I'd look forward to seeing that information.
And Commissioner Wu, I see that you got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So wanted to make a comment regarding how this branding exercise might be more instructive for the Planning Commission. I think one of the things that brand does is that it kind of gives you a foundation and substrate to justify change. So one of the things that I was kind of thinking of was what are the tools that we have to be able to be prepared to use to enact some of the change that the branding exercises might recommend. So if it was something like augmenting a neighborhood's character through custom art, murals, and things like that, as a planning commission, what are the things that we have to be cognizant of what needs change based on what some of the recommendations are to strengthen the flavor of a particular neighborhood? Same with businesses. When we talk about wanting to invite additional businesses, there's probably substantive zoning changes that we need to pre-plan for or roadmap for to allocate the limited space for that kind of a business. So some of those prerequisites based on branding outcomes like would be really useful to have examples and then a follow through. And this is probably not the branding company's responsibility to say like, and here's how you make the change within the code. But one of the outcomes would be a roadmap to understanding what changes would be required to actually put some of that branding force to use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I think we can think about that like high level and some examples, like you suggested, public art policy, for instance. But I think that, would be looking to Ryan and staff to further think through like what's holding back the vision for the identity of this place from becoming a reality from a policy or code.
Not just rules and regs, but also could be monetary, saying that, hey, this, you just literally need to raise money for this part of it.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, Commissioner, that is a great point, and that's one of the, the topics that economic development and community development, do well at working together on is trying to, realize the vision and what needs to change on a regulatory side of it. But then also what kind of opportunities that the city has to incentivize rather by doing grant-funded projects or, public art of, getting that vision realized with the city's help as well.
Yeah, and I would add that, as we go through these sub areas, that's exactly what we'll be tackling and working on and refining to find sort of the deficiencies in each of these sub areas and make recommendations and changes that would foster the kind of growth and development we want to see.
Well, this has been incredibly helpful for me to get a better sense of these areas and your vision for them. I hope I haven't taken up too much of your agenda. I know you have other things to talk about, but I really appreciate your time.
Does anybody have any last questions for our presenter tonight? Not hearing or seeing anything. The one thing I wanted to add, when it comes to the town center, I know a lot of people are fine with that as being the sub-area name for town center. I think it's kind of boring and drab. So I wouldn't be opposed to seeing something a little bit more unique to Terrace being there, but I know that for a lot of people, they feel it's easy just to keep town center because everybody knows what a town center is, and it's roughly what we want this area to be, but couldn't let it pass since we were talking about sub-area names at a high level anyway, so.
What about Cedar Terrace? And what about Center Terrace?
Center Terrace.
Putting Terrace at the
I
end
don't know,
of it.
that's Sports Terrace. I'd never heard that one before. That was kind of unique. So, but again, other than that, that's my only additional 2 cents. So, I look forward to seeing, the next steps of this and how we can sort of integrate this. It'll be great once we have neighborhood, identity and branding down. We can add signage and banners. Right now, our street lighting is on utility poles. Those are kind of hard to put banners on, but in places like Town Center where we had money funded to upgrade our sort of Main Street concept, we were able to add more pedestrian scale lighting that can support those brackets. It'll be nice when we can do that in our other parts of the city that would do that, because utility companies, they don't like stuff on their poles like that. So until we get some sort of alternate fixtures out there,
Yeah.
it's more of a wait and see.
Yes, definitely. I remember looking at the different infrastructure, street lighting, and where banners are appropriate while I was there. So we will work with Ryan on sharing what we come up with you all for feedback and next steps.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the presentation.
Appreciate your time. Thank you all.
Very good.
All right, so it looks like we are ready for the next item on the agenda, which is the director's report. We don't have a director right now, so I guess that's going to be you.
I think we've got 2 directors from 2 different departments now.
Yes.
Hey, that's what I was thinking.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Pizzo. I'm the senior planner. Matthew Gissel's our interim director and has been stepping in that role. However, I am the main staff liaison for the Planning Commission in this interim time until the new director comes on board. So I will be, giving the director's report tonight. Wanted to share that Matthew and Chair Batista presented at the presented the 2026 Planning Commission work plan and the 2025 accomplishments to City Council back in February. And just wanted to extend council express their appreciation for all the work that you all do, all the volunteer hours you've put in. So I just wanted to, pass along their thanks and gratitude for the time and commitment you all have to the commission and the city. And then my next item is update on the director hiring process. So we received 29 applications for the director role. There were 15 candidates who made it to the screening interview phase, and then 4 finalists were chosen from those 15 to interview on a few panels. And thank you again to Chair Batista for participating in that process. And then just recently, an offer was extended and accepted by Brooke Edom, who is the planning director at the city of Snohomish, and she will start March 31st. From what I understand, she has 18 years of planning experience. She started as a permit tech, became an associate planner, and then a planner, and served as the director for the last almost 4 years there. So we're excited to welcome her on board at the end of this month. And just wanted to provide that update to you all. And that is all I have for the director's report.
And you said March 31st was the start date? Okay. Will you be sort of liaisoning with us while she kind of gets onboarded for a while, or are you kind of just throwing her at us right away?
We haven't really talked through what that process will look like, so I'm open to kind of that discussion and whatever will kind of make the city and the commission successful moving forward. I think it makes sense to have some overlap, but we haven't really discussed in detail what that will look like.
Anybody have any follow-up questions? Not hearing or seeing any. I have a completely unrelated question. A few meetings ago, we got an update that the developer for the project, and I'm really bad with the development name, so I'm just going to geographically describe it, the one that's directly adjacent to the transit center, that they came to the city and said, hey, we want to actually increase our parking, so they have like a revision request or something in process. And it got me thinking, I'm just curious on what the status is of the new proposed project at Terrace Station and the proposed project that's just right up here at 228th and 56.
So
If you know off the top of your head.
So I think you're describing the Candela project first. They did submit revisions to their building plans and landscaping plans that were recently reviewed. So as far as I know, they're moving forward, but I don't know like a construction timeline or anything like that. And then the other project you said, is that 220?
The new building that's being proposed in the Terrace Station complex?
Oh, Terrace Station
Phase 4 or
4.
whatever it's
Yes,
called.
so they are in land use review.
Okay.
They recently got all of their complete applications done because they needed a site development plan, a critical area report, a SEPA permit, and a boundary line adjustment. So now that we have all those information, or all of the information for the complete scope of that project, we'll be getting comments to them very soon. So yeah, they're early in their land use review for that project.
And then the old Rogers Market site?
They have their land use approval and they're in their civil permit review and building permit review. So yeah, they're working through that.
Okay. I was just curious. It sounds like they're all in active review, still going, making their way down the line. No permits in hand yet. And even if they had their permit in hand, given the interest rates, they probably would sit on those as long as they could before the city's like, use it or lose it.
Yes, they are all in the permitting phase. Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious because we just happened to, because we ended up talking about the Candela site only because it was just more of a conversation on parking. And then Christy mentioned, so they actually want to increase their parking adjacent there. 'Cause we were talking about how, like Thornton Creek has like a shared parking situation with their complexes to allow commuter parking as well. And obviously our park and ride is jam-packed full really early in the morning. And we aren't necessarily wanting to encourage people driving their vehicles. We know a lot of people aren't going to use that light rail unless they're at least able to drive to a very close proximity to the station and maybe hoof it a block or two to catch the light rail. So there's probably a lot of in-city residents who are not capturing using that station just because of that situation. So it was more of a parking question, and we didn't even realize that development had come back to the city requesting a change to add more parking. So usually developers are trying to get out of providing parking, so it was interesting. So I appreciate that little out of left field there. So I'm glad you were able to provide some updates on that. So
Those are good.
The market provides.
yeah. All right, one last call for questions for staff for the director's report. All right, not hearing or seeing any, we'll move on to the next item, which is miscellaneous business by call of by call of planning commissioners. Anybody have any miscellaneous business? Any known absences coming up?
We excused Commissioner Stenson recently, right?
Not for today.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to wait. She might have emailed.
Okay, I remember we excused somebody, but.
Yeah, I was the
that's
same
all.
way coming
Yeah.
in. I was like, I remember we did something, but as I was reminded, it was for the meeting that ended up getting canceled.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the one that
Oh,
was,
we had the canceled meeting.
Yeah,
we had
Throws
it.
everything off.
Between a
reached
canceled
out.
meeting.
I reached out to Stenson and did not hear back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, between a canceled meeting and daylight savings, I think we're all kind of turned around right now, so. So not hearing any miscellaneous business by planning commissioners, I'll go ahead and declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.